It's been over 30 years since Sean Doyle became famous for his role in capturing notorious serial killer Charles Ng. Doyle, a school teacher, was working as a security guard at the downtown Bay in the summer of 1985 when he spotted a man he would later learn was Ng shoplifting. Even now, over 3 decades later, he can remember every detail of those harrowing minutes and the life and death struggle with the heavily armed martial arts expert.
Put him up against the wall right here, and I showed him my badge, my detective badge, and I said, "I'm with Bay Security. You're under arrest." And then I took his bag away from him and had him by the arm and this arm, and we walked back into the store through here. George shouted, "He's got a gun!" And right about here, I saw him he pulled out the gun and he held it up like that. But so I reached up and if I could get my hands around the trigger, he wouldn't be able to pull it. And then I kicked him and shouldered him, which saved our lives. If I hadn't done that, we probably wouldn't be here to talk about it. Because he was a martial arts expert, and if he could have held his feet, if he could stay standing, there's no way we would have got him. He was lying on his back and he was pulling the gun around like this, and I wouldn't let it go, and he bit me to the bone on my wrist. But I knew that I couldn't let that gun. But with one of the kicks that he managed to get his finger on the trigger and pull the trigger, and bang, the gun went off and the bullet went flying by my ear. I mean, I didn't see it or anything, but I knew that it went by my head. And I thought, oh my God, this place was full of people. And, I thought, I can't let this gun go. And then he was pulling the gun around like this, and I'm trying to hold it back and make sure that he couldn't pull the trigger again. But as the barrel of the gun was coming to about here, I thought, well, if he pulls the trigger again, I'm dead. So I pushed it away and bang, it went off again. And I looked and I thought, the black powder marks on my fingers. And I thought that he missed. I thought that the bullet passed between my fingers.
While the pain from the gunshot wound to his hand would ultimately fade, there was another kind of pain, post-traumatic, that did not.
What was happening to me after I realized and I found out about what the terrible things that they actually did, I deep down I wanted revenge, because when I heard about them murdering 2 infants, I just couldn't get my mind around that. And so what I was doing, I was dreaming every night that he was in a bear pit at the zoo, and I had a high-powered rifle with a telescopic sight, and every night I was lining him up in the crosshairs and shooting him, and it was so realistic that I could literally see the bullet ripping into him and knocking him down on the ground, and then just a few, maybe 10, 12 feet away from me, his mother and a non-existent brother, they were looking at me. They didn't say anything, but with their eyes, I knew what they were thinking. And they were thinking, you're no better than he is. You just killed him. You committed murder. And that happened every single night. And I got to a point where I dreaded going to bed. I dreaded going to sleep. And I dreaded, at the end, waking up. And one night, I got out of bed and I knelt down beside the bed, and I don't know why that came to me, but I prayed for the power to forgive him, and like that it was over. I haven't dreamt of him ever since, and that's over 30 years ago now. And that act of resilience was really necessary for me to survive, as well as surviving getting shot. That was, to me, more important, in fact.
Now Sean hopes a documentary he is working on with a Calgary director will help to give some of the peace he found through forgiveness to the relatives of Ning's victims, and even Ning himself, currently on death row in California.
my director, Devilio Donato, and I are driving all the way down to San Francisco and then into Calaveras County, where they had the bunker, and we want to go into the prison, San Quentin prison, to interview Charles Ng, and I want to tell him that I want to forgive him, or I did forgive him rather, for shooting me, and I want him to realize that forgiveness has had a tremendously positive effect on my life by doing that, and I want him to tell the victims' families that he is sorry for what he did to them. They lost an awful lot of people, and so then I would say to those people that they need to forgive him too, because by doing that, it's not saying that they agree with what they did, but the fact is that the act of forgiveness will heal them as well, so that they can live their lives in a better way. That's the ultimate goal, because I consider forgiveness as an act of resilience, that ultimately, when we do that, we heal ourselves.